Hey, welcome back.
Time for
Social contract?
social contract.
Yeah,
Make a contract
baby.
with me.
Contract? Contract?
Okay, social contract theory, but Cube A is involved.
Yeah, exactly. It's a social contract, but if you violate the part of the social contract is the understanding that you yourself are going to give your very body someday to
to the spoilers.
Also entropy, I guess. social contract, but somehow it reverses entropy. Everyone knows what happens in that anime. That's not a Ariadne. Oh no, Ariadne! What have these madmen done to you?
Security, take this man away.
What's going on? Dad? Marcus, hold on. It's fine. Stop. Marcus, this is my dad, Socrates Jones. You know, the one who told Pythia about the intelligible realm?
Ari, you're alive. I worried when I saw you passed out.
I was just sleeping, Dad.
Your head was jammed between two computers.
Her ability to sleep anywhere is a bit unnerving. But this is a top secret facility. How'd you even find us?
Ari mentioned a bookcase, so I checked every bookcase in the whole school.
Wait, no, sorry. Ari mentioned a bookcase, so it's so weird that I have a second character now. Ari mentioned a bookcase, so I checked every bookcase in the whole school.
Wow, that's... I mean, yeah, okay, sure.
If it's good enough for Hempel, I guess.
I knew a phone call wouldn't work. Your parents are impossible.
To be fair, I don't think he's wrong to, get a phone call from his daughter being like, hey, mom's in the intelligible realm where people only go when they die. What's up with that? And then not hear back from your daughter?
I see. Well, I suppose the damage is done. I'll call off security. Though I'd prefer not to have your entire family break into our lab.
Why not? What are you hiding?
Dad.
I don't trust him. Anyone messing with other dimensions must have some devious plan.
There is a plan, but it's Mom's plan, and I wouldn't call it devious. She wants the philosophers to publicly endorse her programs. I think she hopes it'll help her win somehow.
Really? Really? All of this for a few votes? Is anyone, not gonna, even remark about how we're, trivializing my trauma for the sake of my wife's ex-wife's political ambitions?
Well, what are you gonna do now?
Well, unlike you, I don't have magical philosophy dreams, which is pretty unfair if you ask me. I was the one who was dead anyway, so why not me? But I came all the way down here. Might as well stick around, right?
Well, Jen and Marcus have been watching our debates through the portal.
Then I'm definitely staying. Maybe I can help.
And how do you recommend doing that?
Would it be relaxing if I put on Dream Theater's seminal double disc opus 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence?
I just realized he has DreamWorks face.
He does have DreamWorks face. How did Socrates get somehow even less swag between games? He was already pretty swagless, but now come this game, he's somehow gone even further down. No clue. I'll think of something. Want me to make a latte run? Wait, hold on. Is there a latte machine in here? All this money. You gotta have someone on staff who just makes you coffee, right?
You really mean it? I do not mean to question your political experience, Pythia Smith. You may have ample reason to be so steadfast in your approach. But the intelligible realm is not the Senate. Ariadne has spent more time in this realm than any living being. If you wish to win philosophers to your side, why not follow her lead? I let her run the last 2 debates. Why not follow her lead less reluctantly?
Yeah! Oh, sorry. Listen to your daughter, Mom.
Welcome back, Pumpkin.
How come the buttons on your jacket switch sides when you turn around to face me?
Polling suggested it.
Also, the part of your hair and the way the flag pin on your lapel goes, and... Still feeling unsure about our progress?
Well, you've been lovely, but the opposition... I thought they had problems before. I think they have problems now.
Okay, but there's sub-points. The way they structured their arguments, you've gotten nothing out of any of it?
Confucius was not entirely unpleasant.
Whatever, I'll take it. I promise you more not entirely unpleasant debates in the future.
Well, Pythia, the next philosopher will be here any moment. Fine, I can sit back and see how Adney handles herself.
Why am I
love
won't
how
let you down, Mom, I promise.
I love how one parent calls her Ari and the other one calls her Adney.
Yeah, like they can't even agree on their pet name for her. Like, I also like how Ari's like, hey, Mom, like clearly has a rough thing in a history with her mother, but also her mother's not even willing to do the little bit to save herself here. Does that feel weird? She seems so blasé about. Wait, no, her pin. Wait, they redrew her pin sprite. They redrew her sprite just so the pin itself stays pointing the correct direction when her sprite flips. Okay, yeah, I guess that's important to get that piece of symbology right?
So, the other thing that I've been...
It still switches lapels, but, you know.
It's funny that the whole family has Greek philosophy or mythology or religion-themed names.
Yep.
When, in fact, both Pythia and Socrates do, but that's by coincidence. They must have had those names already, right? When they met?
I thought it was Pythia's side of the family that was into philosophy.
Yeah, but then why is...
So it's complete coincidence that Socrates had that name.
Exactly.
Oh, wait. Oh, no. Wait, no. No, I think it was coincidence that Pythia had that name. Because Socrates was in the first game was complaining about how his how his entire family was into philosophy, but how he never saw the point of it. So I think that's why he has the name Socrates, which seems pretty unambiguous. Pythia just got the name Pythia from her parents and then married into the philosophically curious family. I think. Someone with the lore Bible check me on that. It's unclear.
I'm just imagining the likelihood of two people who happen to coincidentally be named Socrates and Pythia meeting in like 1990s Minneapolis or wherever the fuck this is. It doesn't seem that likely. And I find that delightful.
Then again, once they meet, doesn't like if the only coincidence we have to worry about is just them meeting, that's something I can swallow. After they've met, the romance seems to like.
Yeah, you have to give it a try at that point.
You absolutely have to give it
Nominative
a try.
determinism.
It didn't work out, but they had to try it.
Yep. I'll be honest, I doubt this will change anything. At the end of the day, I know what wins in the real world. But this isn't the real world. It will be nice to get some representation of... Did someone say representation? Ah, here he is. Representation sure sounds nice. If only you had some sort of participatory system, instead of the monarchies that were in place for so long. Oh, wait. You do? Haha, thanks me.
Oh, I fucking love Locke. Thanks me.
Ariadne Jones, Pythia Smith, meet John Locke. Locke is one of the most influential Enlightenment philosophers and the father of liberalism. When studying the evolution of political philosophy, his influence is undeniable. Forget John Adams, forget Thomas Jefferson, forget Alexander Hamilton. Their accomplishments were upon the foundation I built. You could say I founded your founding fathers. Unfortunately, it may have gone to his head a little.
No kidding.
Oh, poppycock, I'm allowed a little pride in my ideas. I was somber all my life, permit me some levity in death.
Well, all right then. What are these ideas that you're so proud of?
I'm glad you asked. Let us commence. In the natural state, people are free and equal, none subordinate to any other.
Okay.
In this state, they have three inalienable rights: life, liberty, and property.
Okay.
You have to imagine he's doing cool poses for each one.
I am imagining him doing the cool poses.
However, people feel they need an authoritative power to protect these rights and punish violators. Thus, they form a social contract with a governing body, giving up freedoms in exchange for civil protection. Seeing how this idea is recognized by your own government, clearly you should accept it as true. The philosophy heard round the world.
So you do know when it's heard round the world, oftentimes what they're hearing is the screaming of an incoming missile. You know they could fill missiles with knives now? They do, that's a thing. That's a thing people have done.
Call me back when they can fill knives with missiles.
Interesting.
That's it? Interesting? My, are we so cynical we cannot give credit where credit is due?
I don't know. Have you seen the political landscape this year?
You can call anything interesting. My philosophy was revolutionary. If I had known John Locke was next, I never would have ceded the lead. Unlike the last two, an endorsement from him would be an honor.
You, shouldn't leave ideas unquestioned just because you find them appealing, Mom. I learned that lesson last time. Right, because of her, who was her BFF? It was,
wasn't it Mel?
It was Mill.
Well, it's going to be difficult to prove him wrong. After all, Ow. What was that? Did someone throw this paper at me? I would never. There's writing on it. I thought of something.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Dad found the secret lab. Must have thrown that note through the portal.
Seriously, I can't believe he'd... Ow!
If you don't want me breaking into your secret labs, maybe don't do secret things.
That man is...
Alrighty then. Locke, let's see if your revolution holds up to scrutiny.
Not one to be distracted, I see. I like it. All right, Miss Jones, scrutinize away.
Oh man, it's been a couple days in between recording sessions for us because of an Atlas RPG whose name shall not be named. But I'm happy to be back in it and poking at philosophy again. And let's see. Can you clarify that for me? What do you mean by that?
All humans possess the same natural rights. To subjugate another is an abomination.
An abomination that has occurred over and over again.
True. Bannon will never let me forget my own complicity there. But the fact that rights are often violated does not change that they are owed to all.
What reasoning supports this statement, buddy, old boy?
Every individual has the same essential human traits, a capacity for thought, and the ability to make choices. These traits render us equal in the eyes of God, regardless of any other differences.
Fair enough.
Or equal in the eyes of whatever you believe in. I won't be picky, as long as someone recognizes our equal worth. I do. That is good enough for me. The Shonen Sparkle.
Locke gets the bishy sparkles. Oh. And how's this connected to the rest of your argument?
Establishing all people are of equal worth is essential for understanding the role of the state. For while these rights are owed to all, we will see they still need protecting.
All right, what do we have on our idea slate right now? Just you stink. And the government contract. Locke defines governments as social agreements in which people give up some freedoms in exchange for security. Okay. And in this state, they have 3 inalienable rights: life, liberty, and property. And what do you mean by that?
These freedoms should never be infringed upon.
Okay. But are these freedoms more than words you'd put on bumper stickers? How would you actually define them?
Right, of course. The right to life is simply that. People deserve to live fully and not be killed unjustly.
Okay, you know what? In a vacuum, I can get behind that. Cool.
The right to liberty is the right to remain independent, unimpeded by others who would subjugate you.
Okay, cool. Already sensing a contradiction here, but alright, cool.
And the right to property allows you to control the goods you obtain or create, as long as doing so leaves enough for others to survive.
Oh shit, he even like, yeah, but hoarding shit, don't...
And thus the 3 natural rights were explained, and all was well across the land.
Are you just mad that you didn't get your own, like, really big hit musical? Is that what this is? Is that why the shade at Hamilton specifically? Let's try not to lose the details within his big bard energy. Oh god, now we have 3.
Oh, and now we can clarify and backing each of those. That's nice.
Cool. Anyway, we also added, in addition to the government contract, we now have the right to life, an essential right to be able to live your life to a just conclusion, the right to liberty, an essential right to be able to make choices unrestricted by any who would impose on you. Okay, interesting little thing there. And a right to property, an essential right to be able to earn enough to survive and keep whatever you can make practical use of. All right. God, there are so many little dots on this one. Can you clarify that right any further?
To kill another unjustly or deliberately inhibit their ability to survive is a violation of natural rights.
Kill another unjustly. So there are times when killing could be justified.
I'm afraid so. Someone who has killed many others is an obvious candidate in my view. But by default, life should be allowed to reach its full conclusion.
Right, so he's saying that, like, it's not the case that there are no circumstances where one would, not be granted that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, self-defense jumps to mind as something people tend to universally agree on, that, part of right to life is the right to defend yourself against people who are trying to take it from you. But
I like that this is, much like you called out with one of the others, this is a more robust case than you would think. It's already anticipating some points that people frequently miss. So specifically, the right, not just the right to live, to bear survival, but the right to live a full life.
Yes!
In good health.
Right, it's not just the right to mere survival, like breadcrumb, like... And I think the distinction between survival and living is one that often gets overlooked.
Very much so.
Because, like, there was a time, like when we were living paycheck to paycheck and didn't necessarily know if we were going to have food the next week, one could argue whether or not that's the same as living, right? It's certainly surviving at a point. But is that like truly living, or is that just kind of keeping, your body alive?
Or in public discourse, the whole argument about healthcare.
Yeah.
And the weird contradiction that folks will maintain a right to life, but not a right to healthcare, and yet what happens without it? You die.
Right, like the right to life so long as you aren't born yet. Or like this weird shaming of people who are poor for wanting things in their life that aren't just subsistence, necessary things, right? Like the part of to live a full life in good health, like life isn't just getting through one day to the next. Like it's okay, like what's the point of the whole argument of shaming people who are poor for still having things that they want to enjoy? You know what I mean? So you have a television, huh? I guess you can't be that poor. I tend to remember a lot of that shit from that. A lot of that came around when I was just growing up and being able to understand some of the things said about other people around me. Anyway, what reasoning supports this statement, Buddy Buckums?
You believe the world would be better if everyone was free to murder each other?
I What? Probably not.
Well then, this statement stands.
Fair. And how is this connected to the rest of your argument?
This is the first of the 3 essential natural rights. All 3 of the natural rights define what human beings are owed just for being alive. It's only by understanding what humanity is owed, after all, that we can understand the duty of government.
It's an interesting way to call it as something we are owed by being alive. Not just something that... I don't think it detracts from, like, the strength of his argument, but there's this strange undercurrent of, like, things we are owed or things we are given to us, and not just things that are instead of things that are just a part of being alive. I don't know if it's just the way that he's phrasing it, but it implies some kind of, like, necessary outside mediator granting these things or making sure that they are owed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like when he was talking specifically about a God guarantee or whatever you happen to believe in. You know? I don't think it makes his argument less persuasive because that's not really, like, the thrust of what he's arguing, and it's not terrible if that is jettisoned. It's just an interesting insight into how he's thinking about things. Anyway. Also have the right to liberty! Can you clarify that right any further?
This is the right to self-ownership and self-determination. You are free to act for yourself without other people imposing on you and telling you what must be done. Yes, clearly this philosophy is the best and everyone must believe in it.
Okay. Okay, so he's explicit. Like, it's not that that government contract necessarily explicitly contradicts a right to liberty. It's that you are explicitly giving up some of that right to liberty in exchange for the contract.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was reading that the first time, I'm like, yeah, isn't that exactly what you're telling people don't have? And what reasoning do you have to support that statement?
I don't believe you are allowed to ask that question.
Wait, what? What? I can do what I want, and that's a question I want to ask.
Yes, you've convinced me. And clearly, you also believe in the intrinsic good of freedom.
Damn it! Okay. I like how this game has some really tongue-in-cheek justifications for some of its things, which only work in a setting like this. Because anyone in real life would just be like, that doesn't... All right.
At the same time, it's not a bad way of explaining what's going on, because it very much is, it's not that I went out there and found a logical proof that freedom is an undeniable axiom. It's that, well, yeah, you, as demonstrated, would like the freedom to choose what you can do and say.
Right.
That's what I think you should have. We're agreed in this matter.
It's the difference between insisting that this is something I believe on first principles, a thing that is a part of the world, and more something like, I pretty sure anyone, when it came down to it, would agree that this is something that they want as part of being a person. Vivian's yawning. We're going to take a yawning break. Are you good?
Yes.
All right, and how does that connect to the rest of your argument?
It wasn't even my line. This is the second of the 3 essential natural rights. All 3 of the natural rights define what human beings are owed just for being alive. It's only by understanding what humanity is owed, after all, that we can understand the duty of government.
Huh, deja vu. I've just been in this place before. Also, just because it doesn't have to be your line for me to want to take a break when you yawn?
I suppose not. You have the right to freedom in this matter. You can take a break whenever you like.
Property? Like the right to have, stuff?
The right to have the stuff you can use. Of course, it has to be earned, but it should be possible to obtain and possible to keep.
I like how he's also emphasizing, like, not just the right to just hoard and amass shit.
And not the right to take things, the right to earn things.
Exactly. It's an important subtlety here. And what reasoning supports that statement?
Would you like it if the arbiter stole the food from your mouth, from your families, or if he hoarded so much food it just rotted around him? What? I would never. Both cases are wasteful and harmful. The right to property elegantly forbids both.
Okay, and how's that connected to the rest of your argument?
This is the third of the 3 essential natural rights. All three of the natural rights define what human beings are owed just for being alive. It's only by understanding what humanity is owed, after all, that...
Okay, we can understand the duty of government. Yeah, I know. Locke, you keep saying the same thing over and over.
What do you expect? These rights are all connected in the same way. Ask similar questions, get similar answers.
Wow. All right, Dick. However, people find they need an authoritative power to protect these rights and punish violators. And what do you mean by that?
While most individuals respect the rights of others, there are always outliers. In the natural state, there is no real way to deal with these outliers, so a way must be created.
And what reasoning supports that statement?
Given our natural equality, just retribution can be difficult to manage. After all, if one pushes back on one who pushed them, what stops the now pushed pusher from pushing back harder?
What?
The person punished for the violation can respond by escalating violations. Indeed, a greater force is required to stop such a cycle. A state will be this very force.
Okay, well argued. And how's that connect to the rest of your argument?
This establishes the need to protect natural rights, which will naturally flow into the need for government.
Naturally. Unless they form a social contract with a governing body, giving up freedoms in exchange for civil protection. And what do you mean by that?
The people enter an agreement with whatever governing body they have. They sacrifice some liberty and obtain security for life and property. That security protects from the aggression of others, from murder or theft. Generally not things people want to experience.
Right, so he's being you're right. Your right to liberty is you're giving up a little bit of that in exchange for security on your other two freedoms in the full. Which, yeah, I could see the appeal of it if it was up to me to defend my own rights to sit on my ass and watch anime out in the wild. How would they even make anime? Hey, Locke, how would they even make anime in the state of natural things?
It was impossible. That's my second argument for the necessity of government.
What reasoning supports your statement?
I believe my argument thus far is ample support. Natural rights must be protected. People have an inherent sense of this. So they'll form governments to gain such protection.
And how's that connected to the rest of your argument?
This is my overall point. It illustrates how the natural rights and the need for government are connected.
Okay. See how this idea is recognized by your own government should clearly accept it as true. I get that you're just flexing, but we all know that is a logical fallacy, right?
You said phallus.
Mom, this guy's awesome. Can you clarify this one for me?
Other people have acknowledged my brilliance. It's built into the national fabric. Denim, in fact. That is the natural fabric. Your own mother endorses these principles. Why would you hesitate to do the same?
I'm imagining a denim flag now. Also,
that would fuck.
Also, I've always wanted to do this. Appeal to authority, motherfucker.
John Locke says the American flag should have jorts.
What reasoning supports your statement?
It's in your very founding documents. We hold these truths to be self-evident. And if Thomas Jefferson thought so, why shouldn't you?
There's a lot of things Thomas Jefferson did that I don't want to do. Don't you?
I would say name several, but in fact, I won't. They were awful things.
Don't you appeal to authority at me, Locke. Thomas Jefferson had his own set of issues.
It's true. Still, the fact remains, my ideas have influenced people for generations.
How is this connected to the rest of your argument?
Is the fact that others believe not compelling evidence you should accept this yourself?
Yeah, no. Let's nix this little bit of ego stroking, huh?
Fine. But deep down, you know I'm right.
Irrelevant statement removed, motherfucker. Challenge the connections of Locke's pompous posturing. We just got another,
Boastbusters achievement.
A little achievement. Consult. What do you think? Locke's pride in his philosophy is probably justified, but I still feel something is off here. Some basic inconsistency that needs to be resolved. Maybe if I... How? How did I get a cut through my jeans? You should ask every possible question until he gives up. That's what I did.
Great advice, Socrates. Glad you're here to help.
That is what we did. Anyway, it's some basic inconsistency. So does that mean that...
Is it going to be that we need to challenge this with the right to liberty like you suggested?
Well, he even brought that up himself. He was like, yeah, people, you give up a little bit of that. But... let's see. Well, let's see what we have to argue with. How about? We have you stink. Yep. Government contract. Locke defines governments as social agreements in which people give up some freedoms in exchange for security. It is right to life. It is an essential right to be able to live your life to a just conclusion. Right to liberty. It is an essential right to be able to make choices unrestricted by any who would impose on you. It is an essential right to be able to learn, earn enough to survive, and keep whatever you can make practical use of.
I mean,
so isn't I guess we could say that this is violating our right to liberty.
Yeah.
But he addressed that himself, though. I feel like that's not as strong.
He said things about it. That doesn't necessarily mean he addressed it. He said, well, people give it up in exchange for protection. But still, you said it was an inalienable right.
Yeah.
You said it was essential. You said that, like, that's a self-evident basic thing. So then, how come people can give it up? I haven't got a better suggestion for this first one. I'm slightly stumped, so let's do it.
Let's try that. Okay, yeah, that is where we're going. I thought he addressed it well enough, being like, explicitly saying like, yes, I am saying that you do give part of this up. That is part of what I am saying. And that's fine enough to say, but I'll admit, I kind of like your idea of natural rights. Premise that there are rights all people are entitled to simply by being alive. It's a good one. Essential, even.
Isn't it? I'm glad you recognize how foundational these ideas are.
Foundational? Yeah, sure. But that's what's curious, Locke. If these rights are so essential, how can you make giving them up a key part of forming governments?
Ah, so that's your approach. Very well, carry on.
Life, liberty, property. You present these rights as fundamental and say governments must protect them. But if creating a government requires sacrificing liberty, doesn't that mean the government itself would be a violation of natural rights? To deal with rights violations, the government needs more power than the average person, which means it could do far more damage than a single individual ever could. And if a government listens to Machiavelli, enforcing security through torture and fear, why all of our rights could wind up falling to the government, not just liberty.
Excellent point.
Excuse me. This seems here like a fundamental contradiction in your priorities, Locke. Governments actually escalate the potential for rights violations. How can that possibly stand? You'd be better off with nothing at all, right?
Nonsense!
Oh my.
I love the nonsense clip for Locke.
Gets a paper. Ari, don't fall for him either, please. It's bad enough I keep seeing photos of you and Mill. Wait, wasn't the last time the joke that Mill and her dad were getting it on? that Socrates came in and was... I forget. It's been so long since we played the first game. Ugh.
Astute observation, my dear.
Don't call me astute.
It is certainly true the government could become a greater violator of natural rights than any individual. You've got me in a corner. If only I had taken this into account in my thoughts. Oh wait, I did!
Is he for real?
Allow me to explain how the government's power should be limited.
Well, all right.
Government's only purpose is to secure the rights of its citizens. The power of government must be exercised deliberately in service of these ends. Any use of political power that does not serve the needs of the citizens is therefore an abuse of power. When rulers become tyrannical, citizens have a responsibility to take a stand. And there we go. Please contain your applause. Applause contained.
Governmental limitations was added to the idea slate. According to Locke, a government's power needs to be limited by protecting people's rights. No, needs to be limited to protecting people's. That's an important, important distinction there. So that's the only thing a government should be doing in Locke's view. Hold on. None of that's mind-blowing. This is stuff I'd hope every government would believe.
I suppose someone from your era might think so. But isn't that in itself impressive? I popularized the standard. Indeed, before Locke's second treatise on government, these ideas were far less widespread.
Why are you boasting about getting it right on the second try? I'm not saying the ideas aren't right. I'm just saying weird flex, but okay.
If his work had not been published when it was, history might have looked very different. Sometimes, my dear, there is value in finding ways to explain and justify what should be obvious. I deserve some appreciation for that, do I not?
Okay, sure. You want a high five?
Absolutely.
Okay. There you go.
Excellent.
Appreciated. Allow me to show my appreciation, then, with questions. All right. Governments exist. The point of the government is only to secure the rights of its citizens. Can you clarify what you mean by that?
The government must prevent the natural rights of citizens from being infringed upon.
Okay.
That one tripped me up into thinking it was a garden path sentence because I read, the government must prevent the natural rights of citizens, and I was like, I must have misread that.
And what reasoning supports that statement?
This is clearly a statement of principles, is it not? The rest of my argument will explain why government should work this way.
Okay, and how's this connected to the rest of your argument?
Without this principle in place, the government would have license to trample all over its people. But with the maintenance of rights as the sole purpose of government, such violations become far less likely.
All right, power of government must be exercised deliberately in service of these ends. Can you clarify that for me?
Due to the inherent power of government, care must be taken to avoid the rights trampling you described.
With great power comes great responsibility?
Ah, yes, what a splendid, completely original turn of phrase. I'm glad I thought of it.
What reasoning supports that statement?
I believe you yourself just prevented a Machiavellian nightmare which illustrated the importance of this. The government has greater power than any individual, and that power is more prone to abuse. Therefore, it must be only used in specific ways.
Okay. And how's that connected to the rest of your argument?
It expands on the previous statement and how central the rights of people must be.
Okay. Any use of political power that does not serve the needs of its citizens is therefore an abuse of power. Wow, can you clarify that for me? And a good part of my country?
If the only job of the government is to support the will of the people, then anything else is an abuse of government by definition.
Wait, that's a different sentence.
Sure is.
That... I don't know if he's just being sloppy here or if that's actually meant to be the thread we're meant to pull on, but that's a different claim.
Yeah, the will of the people is often pretty different than what protects the rights
will
of the people.
Is not... a body to enforce the will of the people is not a body that enforces those three sole rights. And what reasoning supports that statement?
Let's say the government has access to some powerful technology capable of generating immense heat.
Okay, yeah, sure.
It would be morally bound to use this technology to benefit its citizens, to warm those in dire need of warmth.
Okay.
If rulers instead use the technology to warm their own bread, they would be betraying the purpose of government. This would be a misuse of power, even if it does no other harm. Their job was to help others.
Okay, today I learned toasters are an abomination.
Not all toasters, my dear, just selfishly used government toasters.
And that's why it's morally wrong to play Minesweeper on the computer at the county clerk's office. I don't know why I'm throwing county clerks under the bus. You all do an important job, and I'm glad that you do what you do. How's that connected to the rest of your argument?
This is how we know a government has strayed from the path.
Okay. When rulers become tyrannical, citizens have a responsibility to take a stand. Take a stand? What exactly does that mean? Protests in the cafeteria?
Oh, no. Tyrants would never allow such supper time disruptions. The only hope is to replace the corrupt regime with a new one.
And how does that happen?
Well, kings and queens are unlikely to just step down, so armed rebellion, barricades, people must put their very lives on the line, otherwise the violations will continue.
Huh. So I thought we were giving up liberty to make sure that this didn't have to be something we had to use our lives to defend. When rulers become tyrannical, citizens must overthrow the ruler with violence and start anew. Hey, can you further clarify?
Citizens must put their lives on the line in order to protect their natural rights. A nice, deadly revolt is the only way to check a ruler's power.
Hey, Locke, if we already have to defend our natural rights with our own lives, why do we need government? If we're already using our own life to defend those rights, what the hell is the point of all this? The only thing I had to defend those rights before was my own life. What's changed? And what reasoning supports that statement?
We have established that the natural rights are paramount. But when a ruler wishes to violate those rights, well, we have a problem. The people must fight or else lose everything to that troublesome monarch. There's really no other way to dispose of a king or queen.
And how's that connected to the rest of your argument?
This shows what citizens must do to keep their governments in check.
All right, and what's the consultation? Well, this does attempt to counter the initial problem, but I still feel like there is some fundamental conflict here. Just gotta pinpoint what. So, Locke defines governments as social agreements in which some people give up freedoms in exchange for security.
We look at the rest of the statements that we have available? Or sorry, the ideas that we have available?
Yep.
So we
Government?
have government contract, we have the rights. What's the last one that we just got added?
Government limitations. According to Locke, a government's power needs to be limited to protecting people's rights.
Having trouble fitting together in my brain which of the ideas we have is supposed to be relevant where.
Fair enough. Fundamental. Ari's thinking there's like a more fundamental conflict here. So this is only purpose to secure the rights of citizens. Okay. Is that still a conflict to the right of liberty?
We can try it. It'd be funny if it was still that.
Like, you haven't answered the question.
We can try it.
I don't want to lose credibility.
We have so much credibility.
We have so much credibility. Let's think a little bit longer about this. But this is the new one we got, so as a game it would make sense if this is what we used, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, right? Okay, I guess there's not really no way to must be exercised deliberately in service of these ends. Okay. Not serve the needs of the citizens is therefore an abuse of power. Here's another way we might argue against this. How is it that political power is able to do anything other than what we've told it to do in the first place? I thought, like, in his idea, we've given up our freedoms in exchange for security. That's what the government does, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it even a case then that we need that there could be power to abuse.
Hmm.
I don't know. That feels flimsy. Well, we could try it again.
Yeah, we can try. See what happens.
Here's the flaw in your perfect argument.
Are you sure, my dear? Because as far as I can tell, my argument's still perfect. Perfect or not, I don't see how that counterpoint counters this point.
Well, I do. Okay, let's find a different approach.
What am I missing here?
Let's look at the... Well, yeah, because it's... Government's power needs to be limited to protecting people's rights. How about this? We challenge this with his idea of, like, what a government contract is meant to be.
Sure, let's try
Like,
it.
why is this something your governmental contract does? Here's the flaw in your perfect... Okay, nah. Let's try a different approach. Okay.
I feel stupid.
I don't feel stupid. 'Cause I feel like I'm getting hit by, like, the game thing, you know?
Yeah, where you know there are problems,
Where it's
but you
like
don't know how to do the thing the game wants you to do to represent
Yeah,
them.
where it's like, I understand the argument and can argue against it. It's more the fact that, like, it's a game. But maybe it is something we haven't considered. Oh, hold on. Here it is. We're violating their right to life.
Okay, let's try that. There we go.
You're asking us
You're
to
smart.
You're literally asking us to violate their right to life.
Yeah.
Locke, you still believe the rights to life, liberty, and property are essential?
Of course, that's why the government must limit itself in the way I describe.
Okay, and if it doesn't?
Then the people must fight to overthrow it.
So, in other words, in order for the people to protect their right to life, they must regularly endanger their lives?
Oh!
So that was the way that was the formulation. It was less about you're violating the ruler's right to life, and more that you have to give up your right to life in addition here by endangering it. That's what I said at the very beginning. It sounds like what have we really changed here? Locke, you need to get your principles on lock. You built into your system yet another threat to natural rights. And to what end? Even after a revolution, there's no guarantee the new government will be any better. Could easily get caught in a perpetual cycle of tyranny and revolution. Oh look, the government is corrupt. Let's overthrow it. We won! But half of us are dead. Oh no, the government is corrupt again. We won again! Or maybe we lost. Doesn't matter. Another half of us are dead. I've seen Les Mis. I know how rebellions work.
So now what? You're 3/4 deceased?
Where was John Locke on January 6th? The actual percentages I'm using don't matter, Arbiter. Don't try to let's say this, okay? This is an actual point I'm making. The point is, while revolution is definitely needed sometimes, constant revolution is unsustainable. The cost of life is simply too great. How many empty chairs at empty tables are too many? People can only sing the song of angry men so many times before they get a sore throat.
Or are all dead?
That too, Mom. Thanks. Or they're all dead. Look! Did you see him react? There has to be a better way to keep the government in check, to protect the lives of the people. But until you find one, our natural rights are always in danger. Is he gonna be like, if only I'd thought of this? Well, guess that stumped him for a bit. He was being really theatrical about it. Ow! Dad! I'm so proud of you, Ari. You're doing such a good job. You really take after your old man. I'm the one who taught you how to do this last time we were here, Dad. You took after me.
Couldn't he have written that all on one note instead of wasting... Hey!
I wanted it to feel like victory confetti for her victory. That's what people do in these times. My victory? Is it really possible we stumped him?
We'll see.
I was gonna be like, it doesn't feel like that's the end. We'll see. Aren't you a fan of this guy? Have the problems I pointed out caused you to, I don't know, reflect?
Adney, Locke hasn't even gotten to the part of his philosophy that matters most. He still needs to introduce... Nonsense. A system allowing leaders to be replaced without violent revolution, eh? That has the consent of the governed built in. I know just the system. Democracy. That.
Oh, right. Of course.
Behold, I shall solve every problem you have ever imagined.
Is that part of your argument?
No. As the consent of the governed is the only legitimate basis of power, it must be built into the structure of government itself. Democracy creates a natural mechanism for the public to check the power of the ruler through regular votes. When people go to the polls, they have the chance to make their desires known. They can assess the effectiveness of the government from its performance over the last few years. If the government has strayed too far from those desires, the people can always vote their leaders out of power. So, the perfect system finally manifests.
Okay, but you do realize that, like, part of growing up as a teenager in America is learning exactly how fucked our system is? Like, that's half of what we do growing up.
I'll admit you threw me for a moment, but the answer was obvious.
I'm actually surprised it took this long to be presented with democracy. Yeah, in retrospect, I really should have seen it coming.
Everything about our system that works, that allows me to do what I want to do. The foundation for our version of democracy was laid here. I loved these ideals even before I got into politics. You had excellent taste.
Please don't hit on my mom. I can't handle it if both of my parents are dating old dead philosophers. Shunk! Tell Mill I say hi. Mill, where'd you go? My dad says hi.
As for you, Miss Jones, I'm afraid your celebration was premature. It's good to be cautious before claiming victory. Not all is immediately apparent. That's why it took me centuries to appreciate the full extent of my brilliance.
Okay. Oh, really?
You see, there is true good and false good. False good creates short-term fleeting benefits, neither real nor lasting. Miss Jones' triumph is a fine example. True good, however, can only be seen in the long view. It requires assessment and perspective. I could only be sure my philosophy was a true good over time.
Huh. That was actually an interesting tangent. Ooh, true good. Locke believes all truly good decisions require focus on long-term results over short-term results. Interesting. Well then, Locke, give me a moment and I'll find a critique that qualifies as a true good.
That's the spirit. Of course, you'll fail, but at least your heart's in the right place.
Oh, I thought he was going to come out here and be like all excited about being taken down. Peg. Hey, can you clarify that for me?
Behold!
Okay, I'm beholding.
Imagine!
I'm imagining?
Well then, you understand the meaning of these words well enough. I have nothing to clarify.
What reasoning supports that statement?
Everything I say after this will support this statement,
How did you learn to speak in all caps?
as everything I say after this will solve your problems.
And how's that connected to the rest of your argument?
It illustrates my brilliance, setting you up to be suitably impressed.
Huh, more than anything, it illustrates just how big your head has gotten. This grandstanding isn't valuable, Locke. It's just empty posturing.
Ariadne is correct. Let's declutter this argument, shall we?
Irrelevant statement removed. As the consent of the governed is the only legitimate basis of power, it must be built into the structure of government itself. Okay, can you clarify that for me?
The only way to ensure the consent of the governed is to make it a requirement, to design a system that cannot function without that consent.
And what reasoning do you have to support that statement?
This is the natural conclusion to reach after your objections. My previous systems had the consent of the governed assumed, but that demanded revolution to make discontent known. In order to address this, our system must actively seek and reaffirm consent. It is too important to leave implicit.
On the face of that, that's like a really good justification for like why something like democracy is important.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You'd rather have a government that I'm not sitting here shouting out our own democracy, but like on the face of it, a form of government that actively seeks and reaffirms the consent of its governed seems better than one that just operates under the assumption that, is either not there or just assumed. And how's that connected to the rest of your argument?
It reiterates the reasons we need to revise our system.
Thank you. Democracy creates a natural mechanism for the public to check the power of the ruler through regular votes. Can you clarify that for me?
In a democratic system, there are ways for the people to assert power over the ruler, and not just vice versa.
And what reasoning supports that statement?
Every time people vote, they willingly participate in government. Furthermore, they provide their opinion on key matters of state. Thus, the voting process allows the people to assert power.
And how's that connected to the rest of your argument?
This establishes how democracy solves your stated problem. Constant revolution is unnecessary. Transitions of power can be bloodless.
Can be. Okay, good. Can you clarify your statement for me?
In any democracy, people will vote to express their desires. If they voted against their desires, they would be demo-crazy. My jokes are very funny.
They're all right. Don't quit your day job, Locke. What reasoning supports your statement?
Voting gives people the opportunity to choose between several options. When given such a choice, most gravitate to the option aligned with their preferences. Voters literally put their desires on paper. How could it get more concrete than that? They could carve their desires into actual concrete.
Expensive and not at all practical.
I suppose they could. That might make the process quite cumbersome, however.
Where'd I go?
Oh no.
Where'd she go?
Invisible Ariadne.
Invisible Hari, what's she gonna do? Wow, I'm back. Hi. How's this connected to the rest of your argument?
This establishes the new murder-free mechanism people have to show or withdraw their consent.
And can you clarify your next statement for me?
People make decisions for the future based on the state of things in the immediate present and past.
Over the last... Really?
Yeah, you've spotted the thing. You've spotted the thing, huh?
We're just gonna... Sometimes it's so obvious it just slaps you in the face like a moist fish. We'll come back to this, though. What reasoning supports your statement?
The most natural way to assess the quality of a ruler is the outcome of their rule. If things are going well, with bounty for all, voters will wish to stay the course. If things are going poorly, well, they will throw the captain overboard.
Did this just become pirate law?
Democracy did have traction with early privateers. Indeed, that's why the only thing they ever pillaged was our hearts.
I'm pretty sure that's extremely untrue. And also entirely irrelevant. And how's that connected to the rest of your argument?
This establishes how people will engage with the mechanisms of democracy.
Okay, thanks, buddy. Government has strayed too far from those desires. People can always vote the leaders out of power. Can you clarify that for me?
Voting allows the people to change their leaders peacefully.
Thanks, bud. And what reasoning do you have to support that statement?
A leader who abuses or alienates the people will never receive their votes. That just wouldn't happen. We wouldn't see a thing like that occur at any point.
I could never see a thing like that occurring. It would never happen.
Such a flawed leader will inevitably lose to the one promising what the people want.
What if what the people want is a leader that abuses them? What if the old leader refuses to leave office?
Well, then you no longer have a democracy, and we are back to the second argument: the people must rebel to re-establish one. But a well-constructed democracy has measures in place to prevent this. Other branches of government incentivized to keep elections true.
Yeah, and how's that connected to the rest of your argument? What if they slowly take over all branches of government over a period of, say, generations? All with the intent of eroding its power from within and then making sure that any challenge to it will be thrown out without any validity. What happens then, Locke? It's kind of important, Locke? Locke?
I don't think I stuttered. This shows how democracy gives a non-violent way to replace rulers. Thus, it addresses the criticisms you presented earlier.
All right, and what's the consult for this one? So, we finally arrived at democracy.
It really is such an elegant solution to the problem of governance. Who better to choose than the people? If more had an opportunity to hear it from the source, maybe they'd... Damn it, Socrates!
Locke keeps giving you additional criteria to judge him by. Can you use them? Oh, that's actually not terrible advice.
Sure, great. Why doesn't he ever throw these notes at the Arbiter?
You're overestimating Dad's aim. There's no way he consistently... Ah! My aim is great. Also, the Arbiter still scares me. Dude's got a lightning hand, doesn't he? All right, so I think we all agree on where to go with this one.
Yep.
Nonsense.
Okay, Locke, I gotta concede you were right earlier. I got caught up in my present success and missed future complications. That put me in a bad situation. Your lecture was justified.
I appreciate your appreciation, Miss Jones. One must always keep in mind true good can only be seen in the long view.
True good, huh? Right. But you know what?
Hmm?
That lecture was just what I needed to put a chink in your polished armor. Because the democratic system you described struggles for exactly that reason.
What? Impossible! Democracy is a shining, flawless beacon to the world.
I have a thought experiment for you, Locke. Let's say a country has a problem with tomatoes.
Tomatoes?
Yeah, some amount of tomatoes are coming alive and killing people.
That's horrible. Can tomatoes do that?
Man, have you seen the additives they're putting in shit these days?
My, how the world has changed in 2,000
Will
years.
you shut up? No, it's just a goofy example, but it'll do, okay? Killer tomatoes are terrible for approval ratings. They have to be dealt with quickly. So in the moment, a leader might just decide to destroy the tomato supply. And hey, the crisis would be over, right? Political victory achieved. But take the long view and it's easy to see how such a plan would sour. Famine, the loss of all jobs dependent on tomatoes, the lingering guilt of a species massacred, and the tragic end of ketchup.
But the people love ketchup.
It's classified as a vegetable.
Well then, clearly a leader shouldn't enact such a drastic plan.
And be accused of going soft on killer tomatoes? Of ignoring them entirely? It's an election year, after all. Can they afford to wait? Here's the rub, Locke. True good is not politically good. Regular elections naturally favor immediate results. Voters decide based on how things are rather than how things will be. But sometimes the best plans take time to pay off. Sometimes the worst plans seem good at first. And often, good and bad things happen for complex reasons outside of a leader's control. There's a reason politicians often ignore the truth, focusing on manipulating emotions and public opinion. Where's the room for long-term thinking when the short term is all you have?
Nonsense. Ha! A good attempt, but you'll see it has no sway. Let's resolve this with a vote. Who here thinks my democracy is perfect? There must be some mistake. Arbiter? I was executed by democracy.
Hey, spoilers!
Ariadne.
Seriously? I just told you why it's flawed.
Pythia?
That's what finally got to her, huh? Having that thrown back in her face finally gets to her. Oh.
I don't believe it. My perfect philosophy. Could it truly be less than perfect?
I'm afraid so, Locke. It's not that democracy is a terrible system. It obviously isn't. But nothing is perfect, and democracy has its own problems which are often ignored.
You've once again impressed me, Ariadne Jones. We all have much to reflect on. Come along, Locke. Aye. Now, please. Very well. So, is this what you were talking about at the start? Problems you don't know how to fix?
Yeah, one of them. We have a lot of long-term issues people deny or downplay because their effects are not obvious.
And that's how you see me, someone who only cares about short-term victories.
See, they did. Just, but only for the flag. Which I guess makes sense because that's like the only like actual symbol on her that can't be reflected and still have the same meaning. It's not all I see, but it's harder and harder to reconcile this with who she used to be. I don't know if I can get it, Mom. It's just too much.
Don't worry about getting it, Pumpkin. Just try to understand a little more than yesterday. Break her reasoning down into smaller chunks. Why does she believe what she believes?
It's been difficult watching you here, Mom. You were the one who taught me how to reason and how to get to the truth by asking questions. As far as I can tell, you've become determined to shut down any idea that isn't your own.
So that's why you're always too busy studying when it's time to canvas. Listen, Adney, there are a lot of ideals that are nice in theory, but don't work in the real world. I'm sorry you don't approve, but I had to change, to adapt, so I could do the good I wanted to do.
And have you? Have you accomplished what you wanted to do?
I've done my best, but perhaps
Dad? Really hope this note is going to say something constructive because you could still stop, Pythia.
I could stop? You still think I should just give up?
Mom, I'm sure that's not what Dad meant by...
Okay, listen up, Socrates. You already apologized for this once. You really want to go there again. You may be content to crunch numbers and absorb the data others leave behind. But some of us want to make a difference. I got into politics to change the world. Sure, I'm not flawless, but I'm trying. I haven't given up. I won't ever give up. You stand on the sidelines tossing these stupid, useless observations into the void.
Mom!
No, you know what? I shouldn't have doubted myself. I'm not the problem with democracy, Pumpkin. People like Socrates are the problem with democracy. Little, willfully uninformed pea shooters who criticize instead of actually doing anything. Well, Socrates, do you have anything to say for yourself?
I'm going to go check on him, Mom. Chapter 4, Seeing Red.
So
That'll be
Marx?
Huh?
So Marx?
Yeah, it's going to be Marx next. But is the final boss going to have to be somehow, like, arguing between Socrates and Pythia?
That'll be funny if
Is their argument going to spill over into the intelligible realm? Oh, there's no way to know unless you join us next time. We actually got a little... I don't know that I'd call it we got stumped. There was, I think, at some points in the last game where we did get... where we had trouble figuring out how to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've been stumped yet, but I think that one was more of a mechanical thing.
The thing that it was embarrassing is that you literally, it was the first thing you said, and it was word for word correct.
It's literally the first thing I articulated aloud. It was just a matter of, like, getting it into the thing. God, at least we don't have to do Kant again. I took an entire semester on fucking Critique of Pure Reason.
But wait. Kant did write on political philosophy.
They didn't let Hobbes show out twice. They're not going to let Kant do it twice. If they were going to let anyone come back for the second go around because they were important to political philosophy, Hobbes would have been here.
I feel you could bring back Kant in a philosophy game on any topic, and he would be relevant and worthy of the place.
What does Kant have to say about philosophy of gender?
Let me Google that.
Anyway, can't wait for Pro Philosopher 16. Subtly implying that philosophy of gender is only the 16th most important philosophy. Not what they were saying, but it's funny anyway. See you next time. Bye.
Peace.
smash that like, comment and subscribe.